First of all, welcome to the Paradise team headquarters. And also I want to introduce and present our speakers for today. Pablo, Tirado. And Froilán, Irizarry. They're gonna be talking about how to talk to a hacker. Who's the hacker? Who's the... Okay, great. You're not even close to? Okay. Okay guys, so I will leave you with the speakers tonight. Thank you for coming again. And welcome to Paradise team and welcome to the speaker series. Thank you.
Alright, so good evening. Like Sebastian said, we're just going to ramble about how to talk to people like me and how I talk to people like him. And we're trying to maintain it as informal as possible. The slides, we'll try to go through them rather quickly because we really want to get into a Q&A session to see what are your questions about how to talk to either one of us, be it from a technical standpoint or a business standpoint. So let's get to it.
We should do a little bit of background.
Sure.
Because you don't know who I am.
Go for it.
You don't know who he is.
Go for it.
So I'm Pablo Tirado. I was CEO of ML Studio for about a decade. Last year, ML Studio is a web development company. We work with all sorts of projects from little websites to big websites to app development to Internet of Things stuff, anything and everything. That company's still running. They recently put out Uva, which is a great app that you can order fruit from, and you can do that from right here. So promo to them. Since I've moved over to Accelerator in California, they gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, and now I sell to hackers. Day to day, I talk to programming teams and project management teams and the whole thing, selling them the product that Accelerator makes.
So for the last 11 years, I've been a software developer and architect. I've gone from consulting firms to freelancing, startups, and everything in between. So even though I'm the technical guy in the team or in the room, I've always had to have a business hat on because I'm talking to some COO or CEO or project manager or my grandma. So I've had to.
And the best part is that we've actually worked together on real projects.
Yes.
So
yes.
that gives us that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
So I want to start off with this, right? Computer programmers tend, by and large, to be quirky and highly individualistic. Trying to organize or manage such an awkward characters is normally as thankless as herding cats. This is true. And I think you should probably talk about that.
I mean, yeah. When Freud came to me and he told me, you know, we want to do this talk about how to talk to hackers because it's a need, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it was a need because my brother was the development head of my company and I've talked to him his entire life, so you know, I figured that one out pretty soon. But it's a need, right?
Yeah.
You need to be able to have, you know, I have this business thing that I need and I need to turn it into this other thing that's an actual thing. And if you don't know how to do it, you need a programmer, you need a developer to be able to do it for you, and you need to be able to communicate with him in a way that, you know, you get what you need and he gets the proper orders.
At the same time, from our end, we need to have the capacity to say, okay, this non-technical person has a business need that I have to execute on. And surprisingly, for a lot of developers, that's really, really difficult to actually understand what this old guy is telling me in my company. It's usually that. Herding cats, right? And how am I supposed to execute this on time?
So I don't want to jump ahead, but
Yeah.
when we got together to talk about what we were going to talk about at this talk, one of the first things that came up is being able to have the same conversation, to be able to talk in the same language, right? And it's frustrating for a developer because you're working, the central problem of talking to a developer is always the knowledge gap, right? You got one guy who's here and one guy who's over here. This guy, the business guy who needs the thing, doesn't even know how to talk. It's not that he doesn't know the language, because if he knew the language, he'd just write it. He doesn't know the concepts that compose that language. He doesn't know what words are. He doesn't understand how any of the structure of it even makes any sort of sense. So you got that one on one end, and then you got on the other end, the programmer, the developer, who's been speaking it natively for probably over a decade. And he's so completely immersed in that the most basic concepts are so low level to what he's used to that he doesn't jump to that level. So this guy is here and this guy is here. And if this guy dumbs it down and this guy does a little research, they're here. So you still have this huge gap in the middle. So one of the first things that we thought that was completely essential to be able to even have the conversation is to close that knowledge gap as much as possible.
And this video is going to illustrate what he just said.
Our company has a new strategic initiative to increase market penetration, maximize brand loyalty, and enhance intangible assets. In pursuit of these objectives, we've started a new project for which we require 7 red lines. I understand your company can help us in this matter.
Of course. Walter here will be the project manager. Walter, we can do this, can't we?
Yes, of course. Anderson here is our expert in all matters related to the drawing of red lines. We've brought him along today to share his professional opinion.
Nice to meet you.
Well, you all know me. This is Justine, our company's design specialist.
Hello. We need you to draw 7 red lines, all of them strictly perpendicular. Some with green ink and some with transparent. Can you do that?
No, I'm afraid.
Let's not rush into any hasty answers, Anderson. The task has been set and needs to be carried out. At the end of the day, you are an expert.
The term red line implies the color of the line to be red. To draw a red line with green ink is, well, if it's not exactly impossible, it's pretty close to being impossible.
What does that even mean? Impossible.
I mean, it is possible there are some people, say, suffering from color blindness, for whom the color of the lines doesn't really make a difference. But I'm quite sure that the target audience of your project doesn't consist solely of such people.
So in principle, this is possible.
I'll simplify. A line as such can be drawn with absolutely any ink, but if you want to get a red line, you need to use red ink.
What if we draw them with blue ink?
It still won't work. If you use blue ink, you'll get blue lines. And what exactly did you mean when you talked about the transparent ink?
How to better explain? I'm sure you know what transparent means.
Yes, I do.
And what a red line means. I hope I don't need to explain to you.
Of course not.
Well, you need to draw a red line with transparent ink.
Could you describe what you imagine the end result would look like?
Oh, come on, Anderson. What have we got here? Kindergarten.
No, I'm just trying to get a...
Let's not waste our time with these unproductive quarrels. The task has been set, the task is plain and clear. Now, if you have any specific questions, then go ahead.
You're the expert here.
All right, let's leave aside the color for the moment. You had something there also relating to perpendicularity.
7 lines, all strictly perpendicular.
To what?
To everything amongst themselves. I assumed you know what perpendicular lines are like.
Of course he does. He's an expert.
2 lines can be perpendicular. All 7 can't be simultaneously perpendicular to each other. I'll show you. This is a line, right?
Yes.
And another, is it perpendicular to the first line?
Well,
Yes, it is perpendicular.
exactly.
Wait, I'm not done. And a third one, is it perpendicular to the first line? Yes, it is. But it doesn't cross the second line. They're both parallel. Not perpendicular.
Suppose so.
There it is. 2 lines can be perpendicular.
Can I have the pen? How about this?
This is a triangle. It's definitely not perpendicular lines, and there are 3, not 7.
Why are they blue?
Indeed, I wanted to ask that myself.
I have a blue pen with me. This was just a demonstration.
That's the problem. Your lines are blue. Draw them with red ink.
It won't solve the problem.
Well, how do you know before you've tried? Let's draw them with red ink, then let's see.
I don't have a red pen with me, but I'm completely certain that with red ink, the result will still be the same.
Didn't you tell us earlier that you could only draw red lines with red ink? In fact, yes, I've written that down here. And now you want to draw them with blue ink. Do you want us to call these red lines?
I think I understand. You're not talking about the colour now, right? You're talking about that what do you call it?
Perpendicularity, yes!
That's it. Now you've confused everyone. So what exactly is stopping us from doing this?
Geometry.
Just ignore it.
We have a task. 7 red lines. It's not 20, it's just 7. Anderson, I understand you're a specialist of a narrow field. You don't see the overall picture. But surely it's not a difficult task to draw some 7 lines.
Exactly. Suggest a solution. Now, any fool can criticize. No offense. But you're an expert. You should know better.
Okay. Let me draw you 2 perfectly perpendicular red lines. And I will draw the rest with transparent ink. They'll be invisible, but I'll draw them.
Would this suit us? Yes, this will suit us. Yes, but at least a couple with green ink. Oh, and I have another question, if I may. Can you draw one of the lines in the form of a kitten?
What?
In the form of a kitten? Market research tells us our users like cute animals. It would be really great if we could
No.
But why?
Look, I can of course draw you a cat. I'm no artist, but I can give it a try, but it won't be a line anymore, it'll be a cat. A line and a cat, these are 2 different things.
A kitten.
Not a cat, but a kitten. They're little, cute, cuddly. Cats, on the other hand,
It won't make a difference.
Anderson, at least hear her out. She hasn't even finished speaking and you're already saying no.
I got the idea, but it's impossible to draw a line in the form of a cat. Done.
What about a bird?
So, where do we stop? What are we doing?
7 red lines, 2 with red ink, 2 with green ink, and the rest with transparent. Did I understand correctly?
Yes.
Excellent. In which case, that's everything, right?
Oh, I almost forgot. We also have a red balloon. Do you know if you could inflate it?
What do I have to do with balloons?
It's red.
Anderson, can you or can you not do this? A simple question.
As such, I can, of course, but...
Excellent. Organise a business trip. We'll cover the expenses, go over to their location, inflate the balloon. Well, this is very productive. Thank you all.
Can I ask you one more question, please? When you inflate the balloon, could you do it in the form of a kitten?
Of course I can. I can do anything. I can do absolutely anything. I'm an expert.
So I know the video was long, but I think we thought that video puts you into the frame of mind, especially from the hacker's point of view, the expert, on not knowing the language and that knowledge gap. And even though it's in a comedic sense, from my point of view, every time I talk to someone that's not technical, the issues with perpendicularity show up, that they can't even utter the phrase, let alone understand it, right? And this usually leads to unproductive meetings, confusion, and overall bitterness with both on the technical side and the business side.
Yeah.
And that can really put a barrier into any project, being drawing 7 red lines or doing the next great act.
Sure.
So our message is learn to speak, right? He and I are different down to the core in the way we think about problems and the way we think about business solutions. We're aliens to each other. So he has to learn my lingo the same way I have to learn his, so that we can have a productive meeting, right? Or we have to have someone in the middle, say someone like him, in my case, that understands me and understands the business.
So who is not a hacker here? Who of you can look at a page of HTML and know exactly what's going on there? Page of CSS? JavaScript? If you can't answer yes to those 3 questions, you're not at a place where you can really have a conversation with your hacker. You need to be able to not write it, not create the code yourself, but you need to be able to look at the page and know what's going on. And that doesn't take more than 6 hours. You can jump on Code Academy, you can jump on any of the different websites that are out there, and in an afternoon, get the concepts. So again, we're not telling you go out and be a developer, which would be awesome. Everybody should be a developer. We're telling you, you need to at least understand the base core concepts of what's going on in pretty much any page of code, just so when you look at it, you can go like, well, that's what I was looking for. And when he's explaining it, he's telling you, well, we try to load it from point A, and then we try to pass it through this other thing. He can tell you the different little concepts that are working in there, and you go like, oh, okay, I know exactly what he's talking about. If you don't have that common tongue, you're never going to be able to understand each other. And everything that he does, that the developer does, is just going to look like magic. And if it looks like magic, it's pointless to even have the conversation. So you need to be able to know what you're asking for, and to be able to do that, you need to have at least a grasp of the basic underlying concepts of what a programmer is looking at, and that will help you think more in the way that they normally think.
And this goes beyond code as well. A developer or a hacker looks at a project differently than a business person, right? Usually a business person says, okay, here's development, here's my marketing, here's how we're going to push it, go to market, win, right? A developer usually doesn't go that far, but not only that, and the part of the development, it's multi-layered. It's development, it's testing, it's sprints, it's milestones, and if you can't understand when a developer says, I'm sorry, but that story can't be in this sprint, it has to go to the backlog, if not we'll miss our milestone, you're gonna have issues with your project, right? How many of you understood that reasoning that I just said? That story? Awesome. Good. You don't count because you're a hacker. But I've actually had to take whole meetings with my clients as a freelancer just to explain what a sprint is, what a story is, what a milestone is, and why they're not the same, and why they can't be done at the same time. And that's a whole unproductive meeting like the 7 red lines.
And again, that's another afternoon, just Google Scrum and figure it out. It's not hard. And it's just one afternoon you get all the basic concepts of what you need to know. And again, it goes to you don't need to become a Scrum Master. You don't need to become a super project manager, which is awesome if you do. But you need to be able to speak the basic language of what that is.
By the way, you need a project manager.
Yeah, everybody needs a project manager.
Everybody needs a project manager. But, so we're gonna go on with Pablo's,
we sat down, when we sat down, we said, well, it's probably one of the best things that we could do is make a list of what pisses us off about each other, of what pisses me off about developers, and then he's gonna do what pisses him off about clients.
Yeah.
Let's go for the first one. Okay, so this one's a big one for me. The big problem with this one is that frequently you'll sit down with your developer and you'll tell them, all right, this is what we need. We need for the client to be able to go into this thing, and when he gets into the thing, we need to be upload the other thing, and once the other thing is uploaded, the third thing happens, right? That's all I needed to do. Cool, yeah, that sounds easy enough. Probably have it by Tuesday. Because it's simple, right? You just upload a thing and another thing happens. Hackers have no notion of time. Because what they think is simple will get stupidly complicated at one point or another. So the problem is that you're going to be running your business. You know, everybody's talking about agile. Everybody's talking about just deliver. And so you're basically running your business live while you're waiting for what he's trying to do. And he tells you it's going to be for Friday. So you plan everything out. He says it's Tuesday. And you're planning everything around Tuesday. And then Tuesday comes along and that thing isn't done. Why isn't it done? Because when he uploaded the thing and he needed the other thing to happen, he was expecting this to be built in a specific sort of way with a particular technology. And then when it comes along and he looks at it, he goes like, oh, that wasn't built with the thing I thought it was going to be built. So now I got to figure out how the thing that I built originally is going to talk to this other thing that's built in the thing that I wasn't expecting. So instead of taking it 2 days for him to build it, it's going to take him at least 2.5 weeks. So he has no notion of what really things are going to take because they think that everything's just generally simple. Next. This one's another big problem. There are new languages popping up constantly. Every couple of weeks, there's some new bullshit framework that is awesome and can solve every single problem by just sprinkling magic dust at it. And they all want to play around with them.
GraphQL.
And they will redevelop your entire project that they've been working on for the last 6 months on it without telling you at all, without telling you a single word, without they even have the intention of doing it that way.
That pisses me off, and I'm a hacker.
Yeah. So that happens, and it happens often. Spaghetti code. So this is your other problem. How many of you guys have your developers in-house, fully committed within the company? That is 2 hands. 2 hands. Well, you shut up for the rest of the talkers. All right. That's 2 hands, which means that the rest of you will probably start with the developer now and will have to switch developers at one point or another during your process. That is definitely going to happen. Even if that doesn't happen, even if your main coder sticks out with you for the entire thing, he's going to need it. He's going to have a team if the thing grows, right? He's going to need a team. He's going to have to split responsibilities amongst departments. You know, the thing is going to grow, and then the crazy little jury-rigged way that he had the thing that was crucial to your business process for the whole thing to work, the little jury-rigged thing that he made for that to happen, somebody's going to need to be able to take that over at one point or another. And he wrote the thing without any sort of documentation, without any comments anywhere in the code, and any new developer that comes in has no idea what's going on in there. That's another big problem. And then finally, was that finally? Do we have another one?
Yeah, you have another one.
I got another one, okay.
No notion of time.
Yeah. And then again, the knowledge gap. And that's, actually that one's on you. For me, I mean, the way I explain it, and the way I explain my role. Anybody play D&D?
No?
Oh, come on.
Yeah, 1. Yeah.
So basically, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, no one? Anyway. So basically you have, let's say the business guy is the fighter and the hacker is the mage. The fighter doesn't know anything about magic. He doesn't know how the fireball gets created. He has no idea that there are rules for how hot the fireball is, how big the fireball is, how fast it travels, whether it explodes when it hits. All those little things, the fighter has no idea about what's going on in there. So when he says, I need a fireball, the mage just shoots a fireball and it explodes on the other side and kills everybody in the room, and he only wanted to kill one guy. So he doesn't know, you don't even know how to give the proper order. You don't even know how to communicate the thing that you want. It's like when you ask the thing where you ask the genie in the bottle and he gives you something completely different from what you were looking for. It's like that. So you need to be able to bridge that knowledge gap with the things that we told you earlier. Learn a little bit of code, learn a little bit of what code is, about how to work with it, about what it looks like, and learn a little bit about project management, because both of those things are going to let you be able to get closer and be able to give the proper, sort of commands to your developer. So this is another problem. As Freud was saying, hackers don't think the same way as pretty much anybody else. And the thing is that you're looking for a business solution. I need thing A to go through thing B and then end up in thing C. That's what I need to happen. And that's going to make my customer happy. That's what you're thinking. What the hacker is thinking is, thing A to thing B is super easy. That's not interesting at all. Now, thing B to thing C, that's interesting. That's a cool problem. It's an interesting solution that I'm going to have to build, and I have to create it, and it's going to be so much fun to really get into it. Oh no, but I still need to create thing A to thing B. So I need to get to that. And the whole thing gets blown up. So actually the other problem with that one is that thing A to thing B is so boring that they just don't want to do it and take their time doing it. Because they just don't want to put their hands into it because it's so boring.
All right, so I concur with this. No notion of time. So I want thing A to go to thing B and output thing C. And I want this done in 2 days. No. The part of it's not a line anymore, it's a cat. You guys have no notion of time. No understanding on how much time you need to build it, what are the moving parts, the R&D that sometimes has to go into it to actually find out how to do it. I'll give you guys a little secret to everybody, including hackers. Computer science, the science part of it, bullshit. There's no science. It's a craft. It's an art. You can't have a machine do a block and another block and another block and the same block and that block is the same one as the first one. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way because businesses' priorities change, architectures change, technologies change. I'm not the only one that's going to work that code. Somebody else is going to have input into it. And we don't think alike, even though we're hackers. And I'll give you an example for how we don't think alike. I know a friend of mine, they had this whole discussion over weeks about a file extension. You remember? Because one wanted the files to be .js, and the other wanted .jsx. It's stupid. You laugh. It's completely ridiculous. But that's how a lot of the building gets done and a lot of the standardization of the code gets done. And a lot of times, business people don't take that time into consideration.
But the fights between JS and JSX?
That's a stupid example, but I'm just trying to establish that we don't think alike. And that translates into code.
And let's not even get into tabs and spaces.
That's not a discussion. It's spaces. Good. So another thing I'm going to have to concur, it's knowledge gap. And this might be a bit unfair to expect someone that isn't technical to know about how to program and why a list is a lot better than an array and why objects should probably be immutable for X, Y, or Z application, right? I don't expect a business person to know these things. That's my job, right? But I do expect the business person to know how is it that I work? Again, what's a milestone? What's a sprint? How to manage that? How he looks at my job and what expectations he knows he needs. And that knowledge gap, especially to me, is incredibly frustrating. And to a lot of developers that aren't in touch with a lot of business people, that they're in the little tech bubble, it isn't only interesting, it's freaking, not interesting, it's freaking annoying. And, well, sometimes projects suffer for that. So we have this attitude, right? Sell first and questions later. Well, that's all good to go to market, and you know everybody wants to do that now, right? Fucking ship it. But the problem is that you should ask what technical difficulties are there going to be before selling a feature. And I'll give you a concrete example. I used to work in a company that made software for co-ops, banking, right? And the salesman went to Dominican Republic and sold about maybe 50 check scanners, right? And he said that we could manage that from the bottom up. Our app is integrated completely. I mean, peas in the pot. The problem is that he sold it, and we didn't know about it. So when he sold it, he went to do a demo to our first co-op, and the check didn't scan. The only thing that scanned from the check were the last 2 inches. 2 inches of the check. So obviously he said, no, it still has some bugs, this is a demo, but as you can see, it scans. And he sold it. He sold 50. They gave that project to a friend of mine that worked in the same company, different teams, and after a month, it didn't scan. Same 2 inches. Same 2 inches. So they talked to me to see if I can help. And the first thing I did was sit down and read the documentation for the scanner. The scanner clearly stated that it only scans 8 inches. So of course that last 2 inches were of a 10-inch check. The problem was that it would scan, the memory would fill up, it would panic, it erased it, and it completed the scan. Just 2 inches. So that is a concrete example of, if you want to sell, talk to your tech team first. See if it's even possible. Or maybe you have to change the equipment. In our case, we just had to look for a better scanner. Or maybe talk to the manufacturer and say, listen, maybe we could have a firmware for this. Murky business. I do not run your business. Don't ask me what your business processes are. I have no idea. You are the business person. You are the one that's supposed to guide me into what the business priorities are. This is something I really hate as a freelancer. They expect me to come and throw out solutions, right?
Yeah.
And it's, well, sure. For example, yes, we can do 50 uploads at the same time. But I don't know if that's worth it for your business case. What is your business case? Oh, I have no idea. That if you're at that stage where you don't have a list that you could iterate over, don't even talk to a tech person or look for a tech person to help you with that business priority. Come go to your business person, saying we need this. Talk to the hacker, especially if it's a freelancer. Remember, a freelancer charges by hour. So the more you talk to a freelancer about your business processes, the more we're going to charge you, and the less productive it is. Because honestly, we have no idea how your business is supposed to run.
There are going to be things that will be technical during the process.
Sure.
That you won't know until you're halfway through. But you need to be pretty clear on the way that your business is supposed to be run to have answers for them for when they show up.
Yeah.
And don't let them figure it out because they're going to figure it out wrong.
Yeah. To do what you want. For example, you see this a lot in UX design and UI design, right? Well, I want a download button. Okay. Put a download button. How do you want that download button? That'll surprise me. Okay. So I put a download button, same theme as the rest of the site, perfect pixel width, perfect pixel height. No. I want this download time, right? It goes to what Pablo mentioned earlier. Developers are sort of like genies, right? You take the bottle, genie comes out. I don't want to see my mother-in-law anymore. Pokes your eyes out. Oh, why? Well, you're not gonna see her anymore. Be specific. Don't tell me do what you want, because usually I'll have a different idea on how it's supposed to be done. That's not necessarily what your business needs. Now, if you have an in-house developer, this is a bit simpler, right? Because it's in-house, you can sit down with them and, you can hash it out. But when you do it with remote workers, freelancers, consultants, usually you don't want to occupy his time in meetings because that's money that's going down the drain for simple things, right? If you come organized and say, listen, I want the button to throw fireworks when you press it, I may say, oh, that's kind of stupid and it doesn't give you anything. But at the very least, I know where you're at, what you need, and I can talk to you to see how we can achieve either a middle ground if it's technically not feasible, or I'll say, sure, I'll throw fireworks.
And this becomes more and more important the farther they are both physically and from the business.
Yeah.
The farther the developer is, both physically and from the business, the more important it is for you to be incredibly specific in what you're trying to do. Because if the developer, we're getting to that in a second. If the developer is your brother and he lives in your room and you're doing it at this out of your garage and he fucks up, you wake up at 3:30 in the morning and tell him, no, just do it over. You know what we talked about? You know exactly what I mean. If your developer is in the other side of the planet and he's charging you by the hour, you need to be really specific, because the less specific you are, the more it's gonna take, the more you're gonna have to pay him for him to fix it and turn it into the thing that you had in your head, instead of the thing that he built.
For example, that happened to us with some reports. Yeah. Remember reports? So he said, well, you need reports. I said, okay,
Yeah.
what do you need reports about? X, Y, and Z. Perfect. I did 3 reports. And I gave him time for 3 reports. When I turn it in, it's like, no. It has to be just like these. And there were 15 reports.
Essentially, yeah.
And that impacted the project significantly because the client, I already told my client it's going to be X amount for X amount of time. And now all of a sudden it's 5 times that. And that's a really bad pill to swallow on both sides, right? You never want to get to that point, right? So now we want to go into a Q&A with you guys. What problems do you have? Comments?
I think Axel had a comment.
Well, that thing you said, I mean, the less specific you are, we're pretty lazy by default. So if we don't give us anything, we're gonna do the minimum necessary.
Correct. Yeah,
It's been my experience.
yeah, that's true.
I prefer the term efficient to lazy.
That's a better definition.
Yeah.
In the back.
Take note.
Yeah, so you mentioned what they think is simple will be complex at some point, which resonates with my experience.
Sure.
And also this spaghetti code issue of not having someone consistent end to end, right? So given that those are things that happen, how do you have any recommendations for how to kind of mitigate those?
I mean, the easiest way is either having a divinely good project manager. That's usually the best way of doing it, or having a technical co-founder that becomes a clearinghouse for everything else. Because if you have a technical co-founder, that person is just as worried about that working as you are. So they'll make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to be. But if you have a really good project manager, it'll do the same thing. Basically, you need somebody who has the technical know-how to really, really, really care about what's going on in there.
You mean a project manager within your company, or that oversees the company that you're hiring to
Yeah.
Both.
develop?
Either. Both either, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, both either.
You need somebody who understands you to be kind of the point in the middle, because the knowledge gap is an important one, and there's only so much you're going to be able to move this way, and so much the other side is going to be able to move this way. You're going to need a converter in the middle. You're going to need a translator, and that's usually either a technical co-founder or a really good project manager.
Another thing you could do is invest maybe a bit of time with the resource that you have technically, and baby steps, right? It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I think this is the most complex part of it, and I've done this with clients. I think this is the meat of the project is this. I want a 2-hour meeting to really flesh it out.
Yeah, it's usually best to do it at the very beginning, than to do it halfway through the project.
Yeah.
Because what you thought was going to be complicated, it's really easy for the developer, and vice versa. Yeah, I've had problems show up halfway through a project, and it's like, but I just need this thing to be, instead of here, I need it to be here. Yes, but for that to happen, we need to change the entire way the backend works. So you know, you don't want to do that for a long. Denise.
No.
How technical should the project manager be?
As much as possible.
So
Yeah.
that's a good question, right? And it relates to this spaghetti
Spaghetti
coding thing.
Yeah.
So, for example, I understand HTML, CSS, JavaScript, okay, you know, and I'm a good project manager. How am I gonna say that, okay, this code is positioned right now, you know, we want to grow X% in the next few years. This is something we can leverage for the future. This is built optimally for the future. I understand how it works. Okay, logically it works. How am I going to say, like, this is optimal? This is like the best
If you can read it without giving yourself a nosebleed, it's probably well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that goes not only for business people, for developers as well.
Yeah.
I've seen some pretty fucked up code.
Yeah,
That's
so-
like, no, and
If somebody with a basic skill set, somebody like me, I can look at code. It'll take me 2.5 weeks to do what he can do in half a day. If I can look at it and I understand it from looking at it, then it's good. It's good enough.
yeah.
I have
Basically,
one here,
yeah. I
1,
think-
2, 3.
Yeah. So
Okay, a lot of it is technical, but when you talk about hackers, got the personality issues, right? And business people and hackers are really different, like you said. I have, for example, in my team, my lead developer, he's very responsive when he is responsive. So, I mean, I have a Scrum meeting at 9:30 a.m. sharp every morning, and he knows that he needs to be there, and he's like, yeah, I really wanted to be here, but it's 11:30 and I'm not in. But then he'll be pushing code at 3 a.m., right? And, he gets shit done. How much or how hard can you push before it comes to a point where he says, screw this.
I mean, there's a point where you're just dealing with an irresponsible person, right? So if that's the case, then you have another problem.
He's not irresponsible.
So the thing
his
is,
work, not ethic, but his work practices
are just not what not the way that you work.
Exactly.
Okay. So I mean, the easiest way to do it is project manage it in a way that the chunks are big enough that you don't have to be micromanaging every single day.
Yeah.
So maybe expand it out to a week, right? So here's what the week's supposed to look like, and here's what I need at the end of the week. And then we'll talk at the end of the week. If that's not happening, well, then you got a whole nother set of issues.
yeah. So I had a mentor when I was more of a consultant developer that told me, if I have to treat you like a child, I don't want you here, right? And if it's getting to that point, even he could be a wizard. It's going to impact your business negatively in one way or another. You're probably getting to the point of toxic personality.
No.
No. I'm talking about the extreme. No, I'm talking about the extreme, right? You never want to get to that extreme. So, like he said, try to manage it that he doesn't feel micromanaged, maybe.
And how often are you talking? Daily?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably too much.
No. I mean,
I mean, do you see each other face to face every day?
Yeah.
Okay, well then.
Well,
No, I think it's not bad. I just not used to it. And even though he's not there for the daily scrum, I know he's there and I can rely on him. And we have a weekly sprint and we try to catch up once.
so let me ask you this. Why not change the hour of the daily scrum? I mean,
'Cause then
if
it's
he's-
me who might not be around.
okay, so
And we have like the whole team there.
Sure.
It's just him kind of not
Sure.
being in,
So
waking up.
So there's always a point, and at least I have this practice. There's always a point that me as a professional, if I have to be uncomfortable, c'est la vie, right? But I very much appreciate when I have a manager or someone that tries to fit it somehow, right? I've heard people of doing scrums at the end of the day, for example. My wife is also a developer, and they're all a remote team. And they say everybody has to be on at 11:30 Eastern, and we're having the scrum, right? So you're going to have to find, and he also has to find that middle ground, right? And that's really up to you how much you're going to tolerate.
Ditto, I work with a remote team out of all parts of the world. You know, we got part of the team's in Bangladesh, part of it's in UK, part of it's in California, Atlanta, Dallas, Puerto Rico, and we have a weekly all hands, and it's literally the only time I've ever missed it was this week because there was literally no power or internet on the entire island, and that was the only excuse that was valid for me to miss it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, everybody needs to be there for that, and that's, I mean,
Yeah.
wake the fuck up, man. Come on, it's I'm a day.
Who was the other question?
2 and 3.
Okay.
Well, I know you mentioned looking into Code Academy. So my background is I did embedded system programming, but a lot of the languages I learned have nothing to do with sort of the development work that at least I've seen. So a lot of that work actually confuses me when I look at sort of the work that most of the developers, whatever developers do. So like, what are some other resources besides Code Academy that maybe someone can be more
You're
technical
probably better
background
informed than I am.
Okay.
get up to speed?
Okay.
Because I know what an if statement is, so I don't want to sit there for 30
Sure.
minutes looking at videos.
So the obvious one, and probably the more steeper learning curve, is read code. That's obvious. It's a lot more steeper, but at least you see what other people are doing and how they're treating technology. That's one. A second one would probably be open courses from like MIT, Stanford. There, at the very least, you could see the whole course and say, well, I already know this, I know what an if statement is, I know what variables are, but what memory management is, that I don't know. And you can kind of like pick and choose, right? There's some paid services that are pretty good. Something like Code School, for example.
Code Prodders.
Lynda.com is also really good. Full disclosure, my wife works for these people. I like Safari Books Online. It's from O'Reilly. They tend to have topics with different, it's not really a course, it's more like a path for that topic. And they choose the most like important chapters from different books, and they give you this whole learning path that you can actually go through with videos, etc. And I found that to be really good. Like, for example, I've been programming in Python for a couple of years. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in it, but the basic and the intermediate stuff, all right. So I actually found a whole course topic in Safari about advanced Python topics. There was a whole video of these advanced topics, which I need. So you could maybe go that way as well. Message boards are always good. It doesn't matter if you're trolling message boards and not talking up anything at it. At the very least, you learn from people that are doing it more, have been a longer time than you have. I've learned a lot that way. Meetups are also good, and just talking to developers about how we do things.
But it's good to be the annoying patient that goes into WebMD to look up their you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's good to be that guy who goes like, yeah, but it says here that if I'm coughing and my foot hurts, I've got advanced pneumonia or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so it's good to be that guy because then it starts the conversation and you're better informed.
Yeah. So if you go to hackers and developers in general to ask questions, try to ask the questions as someone that's already done some research. Because if I smell that you're just trying to mooch off me, I don't like it. I don't know, it's some bizarre brain thing that we have. But if I see someone that's genuinely trying to learn and has done stuff and I'm just stuck, oh yeah, sit down, and I've taken days to actually explain stuff to people. Just, oh yeah, you're stuck, sure, yeah, let's do it.
Anyway,
Right, so.
but you wanted a list, did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Alright.
So yeah, I'd like to.
Well, there's a
Well, it's
queue.
related.
No, I just wanted
Yeah.
to add a resource that you can use. It's called Free Code Camp. It's
Oh, yeah.
Free Code Camp.
Free
It
Code
is
Camp.
amazing.
Yes, it's really good.
800 hours of
Yeah,
like,
thanks. That's
challenges
really
and
good.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
2, 3, 4.
Free Code Camp.
Oh, I
Who-
was
who
saying
goes?
one. Mine for now?
No, behind you,
Okay.
and then
Oh,
you.
Mine was
You're
management
good?
material.
Okay,
Okay.
now it's yours.
So I have absolutely no background in anything tech, but I've been for the last few months trying to learn, and I've been to Code Academy, and I know that you've mentioned different items, and I don't know if there's like a list of things just to know the basics of 101, because when I start looking at it, it's like a rabbit hole, and I just
Yeah.
keep going and
Right.
going, but not really learning anything because there's so much, and I don't know in which direction to go.
I think the 3 I said are probably the most
Yeah.
basic.
So really, if you're going really down to basics, every single competent language or technology like in that, you need to know what variables are. You need to know what data structures
Yeah, but
are.
that's not how it's structured in Code Academy.
No, but that's how they teach. That's what they teach you. So when you start in Code Academy, it's usually like a string and what a string is. But after what a string is, then you put it into a variable, and the variable all of a sudden becomes an object, and an object all of a sudden becomes.
What's the project that you're learning for?
It's an app.
Okay, so, yeah,
It's like every.
just really do like first do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Once you're done with that, go to whatever your coder's doing, whatever language they're using, whether they're using like, I don't know, like Swift or React or whatever it is, and then try to learn a little bit about that one.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way
Yeah,
of doing
but
it.
all languages have the same basic components, right? They might be written differently, they might behave different in memory, whatever. They all have that basic like conditionals and if, fors, and stuff like that. So that's what you really have to learn. Alright, yeah, he's next, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
See. So the hacker is here, the business person, but there's also the client. And there's a knowledge gap, obviously, between the three of them. So from a salesperson's perspective, how or what are the best practices to communicate to your hacker that the client doesn't need X feature anymore. He now wants Y feature. Or how
That's all
to
you do.
communicate.
That's literally all I do ever.
all you
And how to communicate that there are so many bugs between of the program and how to report the bugs to the hacker.
So that's just all project, everything you mentioned is project management. So you're more than as a salesperson, because the sale is the sale, right?
Sure.
And you can structure the sell to be as structured or unstructured as you want it or need it. Like one trick I use commonly was, instead of paying me upfront for this specific thing, let's do a retainer agreement for X period of time, and you can pretty much annoy me all you want during that period. It's great because it got me paid consistently and it bumped up the price. But it also let me do whatever I wanted with my developer, right? So it means that if I need to change Y into X, I don't need to worry about costs because I already put the project down. So the problem that you're going to have a lot then, right? If you're not structuring your ways in which, if you're not structuring your deals in a way that that allows for flexibility, then you need to be a pain in the ass about everything that you're doing. So if you quoted for X, Y, Z, right? And halfway, and it's gonna take you 4 months to do it, X, Y, Z. And at month 2.5, the client decides that Y isn't important anymore, and now we're gonna be doing F, and we're just gonna stick it in there. That's a change order. So, we can do F, but F's gonna cost this much. And since we're taking Y out and we already built Y, then now we have to, and I also need to charge you about the way that we're gonna restructure, X and Z so that F fits into it. So, you gotta be a douche to your clients, because if not, they're just gonna walk all over you.
One of the things I do is that usually I create the whole project structure. I create the backlog, I create the sprint, I create everything. And I show it to my client, and I sit down with my client. And I go through all the items, like, okay, this is the most important thing that you need to get out, like, now. And this is the only thing we're gonna do. That's it. This cannot change. If something happens that it really, really, really has to change for whatever reason, what we tend to do is eliminate what needs to be eliminated, keep on going with the plan as is, and then just squash whatever came up after we finish through that plan, right? It does a couple of things. One, it keeps me organized. Two, it helps him have realistic expectations. And three, it also helps him get into my mindset of, oh, this is how we're gonna work, right? And up to now, it works well.
Unless you're at a larger entity, right, that has split up between, that you have different people for different roles. Like me with Accelerator, all I need to do is sell. And always be closing. But now, because now I have somebody who's going to be the project manager for whatever it is that we're doing, somebody's going to take care of the client, somebody's going to do the billing and the this and the that, because it's a larger company and I'm comfortable. But when you're a larger entity, like the company I used to run for a decade, I had to, find the client, close the client, project manage it, and make sure that they paid on time. So you need to grab a whole bunch of hats and just put them on your head. So yeah, that's on you. Anybody else?
So earlier you talked about the cool element, right? Developers want to build cool things. So I actually think it's quite important that the developers you work with are happy, and sometimes you might have a business priority, but it can wait, and the developer might say, oh, I really want to build this really cool thing. So do you have any practical ways of dealing with that and kind of finding a good balance between cool and business imperatives?
Yeah, you have Slack days. It works quite well. Has anybody heard of the 80-20 in Google? 80% project, 20% working whatever you want. Other companies call it Slack days. For example, you could, depending on how big your organization is and on how you want to accomplish it, you can say, well, every 2 weeks, Thursday and Friday are Slack days. You can read, you could follow up on your education, you can build whatever you want, the only thing you can't do is actual work, right? So if you're a data company, right, you have to work on whatever you want relating to data. So that way, you can give the developer his candy, but he's working on things that he'll need for your business anyway, maybe down the road, right?
Yeah, well, the worst thing you can have is a burnt out dev who really doesn't want to. At the end of the week, he's like, I just don't want to code anymore. I'm going to move to a farm. There's going to be chickens.
And so often you see developers that just leave companies because
they get burnt out. Yeah.
I want this to be done right now.
Yeah, and I mean, then it goes back to the business. Everybody here is a startup. I mean, I don't think I'm talking to anybody at a plus 500 employee company here. But if you're currently in Pablo, you've got a 40 grand runway for a little while at least, so you can kind of slow things down and get things right. So just think about the way that you're doing your business. You don't need to have the whip on all the time. So it doesn't need to be happening constantly. So Slack days are a good idea.
Yeah, Slack days are work. And another thing about the whip You never want to have the way. If you have to, no, seriously, if you have to treat your developer as a child, you don't want him in your company. That's not what you're not running a nursery, right? I mean, that's something I learned the hard way, right? They sat me down and said, come on, fucker. You're not doing this. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, sure, I like to play with cool and interesting stuff as well. But again, this has happened with a current client of mine. Oh yeah, we could do all this stuff and the upload is gonna be, nah, it's not worth it. I'm still working with cool stuff, but, so Slack Day, yes, I think Slack Days work a lot. I mean, Google Maps was a 20% project.
All right. Anybody else?
Just want to add a comment.
1, 2, 3.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's a short comment.
Yeah, it's just that clients usually like relate developers that also assume they're designers.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, you know what? I want my web page very pretty and all that.
Yeah, I don't do that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a designer. I'm
Yeah.
a programmer, so yeah, they have to.
Yeah, so know the roles. So you gotta
Yeah.
know who does what.
My question is more about culture here in Puerto Rico. The whole co-founding, I feel like in other parts that's more of an interest, and here developers are really just want to get paid and do the work and not.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments
So,
about that?
Actually have a really good case study of exactly what you need to do to be able to pull in technical co-founders. But
So-
I want to say something.
Yeah, so the tech community here in Puerto Rico for decades has had the mentality of, I go to Mayagüez, I become an engineer, I'll go to JP Morgan, or I'll go to NASA, or I'll go to Banco Popular, and I will retire.
Or EverTech.
That's, no,
Or,
pre-EverTech.
SoftTech.
No, pre-EverTech, or SoftTech, or Rock Solid, whatever. The mentality here in tech has been very much of employee, right?
Yeah.
We are not Silicon Valley. We're not Berkeley, we're not MIT. So first, let's acceptance. That has been changing now, thanks to examples like Parallel, Piloto, Engine 4, the different...
Crisis.
What?
The crisis has also helped.
Yeah, the crisis has also helped. So yeah, that is a that's a big issue, especially with developers here.
But I'll give you something else though. Even the ones who are super entrepreneurial, like this line that I'm looking at right over here, including Freud, they want to do their own thing. They've got their own projects going on.
Yeah.
So why do they want to work on your thing?
Oh, I mean, I know that that's not. I mean, it has to be both people. Need
No, but
to
I'm gonna
be-
give you the answer. I'm giving you the answer. The more you bring to the table as a non-technical founder, the easier it is for them to say yes, right? So I interviewed Guy Fretor, who was doing the episode, I don't remember the number, look for it in startupsofpuertorico.com, entrevista número something, Guy Fretor. He had a kind of childish, one would say, idea that if you put a bar on the floor and you drove over it, you could run a dynamo off of it and it'll generate energy. Sure. He had no background in electrical engineering, no background in anything. He did advertising and stuff. He didn't know anything about any of that. He did movies. Because he was playing with a Superman doll that his son had that did a little spark thing. So what did he do? He went to a lawyer and got a patent pending. He went to somebody who was interested in investing in the idea. He went to somebody who at least generally validated that it was something that was possible, and he mocked it up, right? So literally grabbed like pieces off of toys and broke them apart and kind of built a little thing. If this works, this should work. After you have a patent and money and a working prototype, getting a technical co-founder interested is a lot easier. So the more you can bring to the table, the more interested they're going to be. And obviously, very few millionaire developers here on the island, so they need to eat too. So if you can put some money into it too, that's a real.
And I'd like to add that he won an international award for that.
Yeah, but that was after he found.
Like recently.
But now he's got an international award as well. He's got a pilot project in France.
And if the government had bought it, we would have had light up on the semaphores, on the street lights, because it would have worked during the blackout.
So I'll give you this because it used to happen to me a lot, right? I had a web development company. So people came to us constantly going, I got this amazing idea, man. It's like Facebook, but for dogs. Not any dogs, small dogs, all right? So people who have small dogs spend insane amounts of money in their stupid little dogs, and they're going to give us billions to do this thing. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you 5% of my idea, and you're going to build it, and when we start making a lot of money, you're going to be rich. It's like, that's stupid, right? Everybody can, realize, see that it's a stupid proposition. My answer to that started being, no, I would never dare take 5% of such an amazing idea. Just pay me the $1 million now, I'll build it for you, and you get 100% ownership. But that guy wasn't bringing anything to the equation, he just had a stupid idea. The more you bring to the equation, the easier it is. Yeah, and ideas are whatever. Executions will get it done. And I think we had last one back there. Okay, I think we're done.
How are we on time? Are we done? All right. Anybody else?
Keep going.
1, 2.
So this was co-hosted by Startups of Puerto Rico Speaker Series and Hack Nights. Hack Nights, you're all invited. We come together every Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Piloto 151. And it's basically pure programming for programmers and programmers in training, different levels, and everyone works on either their individual projects. Sometimes they end up working in group projects when they start talking to each other and start sharing best practices, etc. It's a lot of fun. We do that over some pizza and some local beer. So you're all invited to come. Code Trotters is the first coding school in Puerto Rico and the Caribbean, and our new session starts October 10th. So if you want to learn basics of coding, you can do that in 10 weeks, twice per week. So you can come talk to me for more details. If you're looking for talent, come to our graduation. It's October 5th at Piloto 151. It's free. Cocktail starts at 6, and you're able to check out the new talent.
And I'm speaking.